It's been a while since I talked about a TV series, and I think today is the perfect opportunity to talk about a long-running series that recently ended, and I'm talking about Adventure Time. Yeah, you can tell from the Finn doll that I have here. Um, I won this Finn doll in a Dave and Buster's via a surprising jackpot that I got, and well, since now the series ended, I think that it's the perfect opportunity to not just making a review about the series as a whole, because talking about a TV series in general, especially one like this one, it could take a long time. So, so what I'm gonna do instead is mostly inviting you to ride along memory lane of my mind about some of my thoughts about Adventure Time over the years. I mean, how I got introduced to the show, what dragged me into it, what are my opinions of some of the philosophy of the show, and so on and so on. And, well, I think it's better off to start off, for many of you, what Adventure Time is for the uninitiated. For those who doesn't know, Adventure Time came out, I think it came out kind of like the early 2010s or something like that. I haven't bothered to investigate for big details. But the thing is that it is an animated show created by Pendleton Ward, aired on Cartoon Network, it becoming part of the Cartoon Network lineup, and it's about this kid named Finn, let's say that this is a kid who lives along with his best friend, with this yellow dog named Jake, who has, well, transformation powers. He can transform into almost anything he wants. He can grow, he can shrink, almost like, let's say that is the Elastic Man or of magical creatures. But instead of being elastic or rubbery, is technically a magical dog that can do anything it wants. And I remember that the first time I stumbled into Adventure Time, it was during my preparations to go to Vancouver. I did saw one episode out of it, but to be truth to be told, I wasn't too hooked into it. I knew it was weird, but I somehow didn't catch on the calm demeanor that the show had. I thought that Cartoon Network are supposed to have kind of like bombastic, wacky characters. They show that they have full of life, and they was like, hey, oh, not this one. This one, it had kind of like chill people. It was like, oh, okay, here it goes, oh, whatever. It had this calm demeanor attitude that it kind of rubbed me in the wrong way, but I didn't hate it. I still thought that I might give it a chance, but unfortunately I didn't at that time. I went to study in Vancouver. But ironically enough, little by little I'm beginning to hear about the fandom of Adventure Time so much that at first I didn't care. That is until by curiosity's sake, every time I went to my room where I was living in Vancouver for my studies, I technically put on the TV just to give out a little bit of noise and ambience in this small room. And sometimes the channel give out some Cartoon Network shows. And one of them was none other than Adventure Time. So I kept watching a few of those episodes. And little by little, I'm beginning to get the gist. And I was like, alright show, you got me. I'm in. But despite being the show that got me, unfortunately it wasn't kind of like my priority to watch. I was more prioritizing in anime and my studies. And if it was kind of like American shows, there was regular show that kind of hooked me back into Adventure Time. Mostly because my my college and at the school, they put out the regular show, and I was like, what is that dialogue? That was so funny. I didn't watch it, and fortunately, they had these episodes of the regular show in the computer. So thanks to them, I did manage to catch up with regular show. And during when I returned to the United States, regular show was always followed by Adventure Time. So it was kind of like a double dose for me, and little by little, I was beginning to get hooked onto the show. Although I was also hooked, aside from anime and other shows, there were other shows like I was getting hooked on, but mostly regular show and another show that should not be named. But more importantly, I'm talking about Adventure Time, in which little by little, I'm beginning to like the world that it's about. I mean, the more you get into the show, you kind of realize that it's not technically just the adventure of a kid and a dog in an imaginary world where there exists a kingdom full of candy called the Candy Kingdom, where we have a princess called Princess Bubblegum. There's also this flying unicorn called Lady Rainicorn, who all the time speaks Korean, and they also have, and their main antagonist, they have to thwart this crazy blue guy named the Ice King, who has ice powers. So Adventure Time kind of started up like that, kind of like an adventure at the top, adventure of the week, adventure at the time, and if we just follow along, because some of those stories were kind of begin to feel well, there was some crazy stuff about it, and we began to endear some characters. Especially one that caught my attention was a character that technically became a fan favorite, which is Marceline, the vampire princess. I thought she was cool. She was kind of like this gothic girl that you just like to hang around. At first instant, I thought that she might gonna be a villain, but no. She began to endear me little by little. And the show keep going on and on, doing crazy things. But I think it's during the third season that most of the storylines becomes a little bit darker. And it all started with introducing one villain, which is called the Lich. Which the Lich is this kind of like this undead thing that kind of looks like a Cartoon Network version of the Final Fantasy Lich, the first game. And of all the characters that were in this series, this character, the Lich, it was the unfunniest of them all. And I'm not saying in a bad way. It's unfunny because he's so creepy. He put a lot of risk into the show, and it almost managed to kill off Princess Bubblegum. But his presence, you can feel that it was a chill out of it. But even though they defeated the Lich, still his presence was there. Still there was something odd about this series. That is until little by little I began to realize that the show in which it has a lot of magical places, magical stuff, magical creatures here and there, goblins, everything you can think of in some kind of fantasy world. I never realized that it was actually a post-apocalyptic world. Yeah, I mean, it was post-apocalyptic, and I was like, holy shit, what? I mean, let's take aside that the first Adventure Time episode is about zombie candy. No, that's vanilla compared to the whole lore behind Adventure Time, which it all started with something that vaguely they call it the Mushroom War. The Mushroom Wars, technically, it is kind of like an allusion to the mushroom clouds that atomic bombs gave out. So in a way, humanity is wiped out, and Finn is the only human living amongst everybody. So that makes this character kind of a little bit more interesting than we thought of. I'll take a side note for the moment on my memory lane to talk about a little bit of the art style and the voice acting. Well, the art style, that's kind of the first thing that didn't attract me at the moment, because I was still very focused on how incredible anime can be done, and the details of anime is really extraordinary. I was still kind of like a young apple at that point. That is when I went to Vancouver and I kind of began to learn about how sometimes graphic is not everything, and sometimes you have to also appreciate the simplicity of everything, because sometimes less is more. And this is the reason why I finally get some kind of attraction to Adventure Time. The character design is very simplistic, but at the same time, you're gonna see a lot of details, about most notably in the animation. The animation is very smooth and outstanding. Sometimes you're gonna see some weird shot, like for example, they don't go well into perspective, but you kind of not notice exactly what it is. It's technically some kind of art choice that they do, and having this rubbery elastic, kind of like, how could I say that, smooth cylindric like style character design. It gives an advantage that when they need to go into surreal levels, they go all out. They can manage to distort the characters or distort the world whatever they feel like. And now I go with the voice acting. Finn was voiced by Jeremy Shada. He was very young. He actually sounded very, very young when he in the first few episodes, and it really fit. But little by little, you're gonna notice that his voice began to get deeper and deeper as he grows up. And well, most of the time when they have shows that they have to keep on having younger characters for a younger generation who can't modulate their voice, they always find some kind of replacement or something like that. Kind of like in the Amazing World of Gumball, in which they changed Gumball's voice 3 times and Darwin's voice 4 times. Not Jeremy Shada. He keep on like that, and they kept that intentionally. They kept that intentionally. And the other character, Jake. He was voiced by John DiMaggio. Here's the funny story. While Adventure Time was on its big time, I had the chance to go to Comic-Con, and a lot of the Adventure Time character was gonna be there. I wasn't too interested in them, except for John DiMaggio, because I really like a lot of the voice acting that John DiMaggio do. Jake the Dog wasn't my favorite, but I do love him as Dr. Draken and Bender for Kim Possible and Futurama respectively. But somehow there is this channel called Rebel Taxi that I used to watch, and this guy, he kind of gave me horror stories about John DiMaggio being kind of intimidating to the point that he kind of got a grudge about it. I don't know if he was joking or something, so I got intimidated. But still, I decided to get an autograph from him. And guess what? This guy, he was awesome. He was really nice. So nice that I made a drawing of him, and and of course he signed it. Here it is. Here's John DiMaggio with Bender, Draken, and Jake, of course. Some of the voices that I really like, and and I asked him to encourage me as an artist, and he even made the vendor voice. That was great. Just in case, I do have Jeremy Shada too, but I'm not very proud of that drawing. That was a little bit too rushed to be a little bit proud of that. But there's one more, but I'll get to that later. What else there is? I don't remember the voices who voiced Marceline and Princess Bubblegum. I know that Pendleton Ward himself, the creator, he voices two other characters. One character that is probably the most innocent of all the characters, which is called BMO. BMO is kind of like this very cute, very cubic living Game Boy who kind of acts like a child all the time because, and he's like, oh no, sorry. Pendleton Ward didn't voice that. It was the one that voices Lady Rainicorn is the one that voices BMO. Sorry about that. Okay, now that I'm talking with BMO, I better talk. Why not talk about him? This is probably. I'm sorry to say this, people. I know that many people like this character, but unfortunately, BMO is technically one of my few least favorite characters in the series. There is something on him that I just want to punch this robot for acting too naive or too. He's like, yeah. There's something curious about forced cuteness that I have with him. So, sorry BMO fans, but sometimes don't you feel that you just want to punch this robot? Or computer? I know that that's the intention, but man. I mean, later he grew on me, but I didn't think that BMO made me kind of like big impressions on me. Let's talk about the supposed villain of the series, which is none other than Ice King. Ice King was voiced by none other than the guy who voiced SpongeBob, Tom Kenny. Aside from SpongeBob, this is also one of the few moments in which Tom Kenny give out a great performance, given the performance of how can I describe the Ice King? He's let's say that he's some crazy perverted old man with ice powers that come from his crown, and he just there kidnapping princesses because he just wants to marry one, and he's kind of like this guy who just wants to be hip and everything, but fails miserably, and in a way, he also wants to befriend Finn and Jake, despite they're kind of in odds about it. They're just, what can I do with this old man? So we don't know if we want to kick his ass or we just want to pity him. And you notice that I haven't been talking about the main characters yet? I'll get to that just in a while, but let's continue with the Ice King. But the Ice King, he was the character who made me realize how deep this show can get. And that is none other with the supposed Christmas episode that they had, in which it's just Finn and Jay going through his collection of recorded VHS that he recorded himself. And there was one video in which he was very embarrassed, but that video, jeez, it showed the past of Ice King. The past, I was so surprised at this episode. I was like, because I couldn't believe what I was watching. Here goes. The video was about that Ice King was actually a regular human being. He was actually a human named Simon Petrikov, who he was, and I think he was a kind of like an archaeologist, very interested in magic artifacts here and there. And that is until he finds the crown. He makes vlogs out of it, and apparently when he wore the crown, he began to hear voices, and little by little he began to lose his mind. He even talked that he had a girlfriend that he called Princess. This girlfriend was named Betty, and then something came up that eventually came out with the Mushroom War. I was so surprised, and from this point on, the Ice King kind of became one of the most pitiful characters in animated history. He kind of began to cease to become a villain, but more like someone that you should pity. And the Ice King, he's just kind of like a lost being, someone else that from a smart man becoming just a very pitiful old man who is crazy and doesn't even remember what he was. That was something, I must say. So yeah, then we got a little bit of shenanigans here and there. But then it was then we come the episode that cement me to watch every single episode of Adventure Time, and that is Incendium. The Incendium episode is the one that I thought that, well, Finn kind of needs something that should be relatable or something like that in something that he could, well, to put it bluntly, I wanted Finn to have some kind of girlfriend. Sometimes I get sucker in romance as long as there's a chemistry and the romance. But in the few episodes, Finn was very attracted to Princess Bubblegum. But unfortunately, Princess Bubblegum is too old for him. She kind of knew it. Finn tried the advances, and that is until Incendium presented this character named Flame Princess, in which technically she was kind of like more kind of in the age wavelength of Finn. And the episode kind of started out with Jake trying to help Finn get a girlfriend, but unfortunately she is full of rage and anger and all this stuff, and I was like, oh dear, this is getting intense. That is until finally both meet, and Finn, at the end of the episode, he's like, hey Jake, I think I got a crush. I thought that was brilliant, and it took, I think, a year or so to finally continue in that storyline. And at this point, I think Flame Princess became probably my favorite character of the whole series. Even up to this date, she's my favorite character. Because she might be very emotional character, but I'm trying to understand where she came from and how she later manages all the problems that she does. She becomes great. I really admire that character. So much that on the Comic-Con that I went, even the voice actor of Flame Princess, Jessica D'Amico, she was there alongside Jeremy Shada, and guess what? She was as nice as what was it? John DiMaggio. She was really sweet. I really like her. She was a very sweet. She was a sweet lady. So much that I decided to even. I didn't care, but I bought her autograph. See, I still got it. I put it on my wall, and of all the Adventure Time stuff that I have, this is probably my proudest of all this Adventure Time stuff that I have. Flame Princess, she's up to this date, she's my favorite character. And I still have it on my wall. I just took it out because I have to show it to you guys. But Jessica, if you're hearing me out, you did a great job in Adventure Time. I wish you well for in the future. So after that, of course, we keep on going with Adventure Time stuff, but still things were going a little bit darker in a way. let's go along, for example, with the character of Princess Bubblegum. Princess Bubblegum, she kind of came out as, you know, being the typical princess. But somehow they wanted to give out a little bit of this feminist agenda into her by making her not princessy, but and still responsible on her kingdom. But they also made her more of a scientist, kind of like trying to go into scientific approaches. But little did I know that little by little that kind of becomes a little bit of a thorn into the series. As the series progressed, a lot of clues and stuff were beginning to present into this series, and some of them I kind of begin to feel, well, kind of uncomfortable with some of the choices that they did. They're bold choices, I give it that, but not exactly kind of like a very happy thought. And one of them is that somehow I just wanted to scream Pendleton Ward and saying that, dude, what is your deal with that every time there is some kind of vision of the future or some make-believe that something will happen in the future, Finn loses his arm, and somehow he's kind of proud of that. And I was like, dude, what is your obsession of getting rid of Finn's right arm? That's kind of... I mean, I know that adventuring sometimes takes a lot of risk, especially the kind of danger that it goes. I mean, the guy from 127 hours, he amputated his own leg, but not all adventures kind of end up like that. Okay, maybe I'll give it credit because there's not many animated shows for general audiences that do that. Well, maybe except How to Train Your Dragon. That was a bold but great move. And well, this is one of those things. Then there was a few episodes called the Grables episode that is technically some kind of fairy tale that shows scenes about it, talk from the perspective of some guy who begin to tell stories from the future, and the future is really, really looking grim, dark, kind of like some Second World War happened. And the more the series began to approach to advance, all those things that will happen, it does happen. I mean, remember Finn's arm? Yes! He loses his arm. I'll get to that, just in case. And, sorry Finn, but seriously. So, even up to this day, I am convinced that Pendleton Ward, you are a fatalist. I think he's a fatalist. For those who doesn't know, a fatalist is someone who has the belief of that the future cannot be changed. It's all set in stones. And it's so depressing. But you know what? I'll put here what a fatalist is for a while. So you'll get the idea. So, technically, yeah, the series goes on in a little bit more uncomfortable areas. One of the biggest punch on my face that I had is when Finn does something horrible to Flame Princess and that they end up breaking up. I'm not gonna reveal exactly what he did, but what Finn did was a total immature stuff. Although, mostly I blame Jake for pushing it. Then we got the episode that the Lich returns, and then we got Finn and Jake kind of we begin to learn a little bit more about themselves, and at this point I kind of begin to realize the personalities of Finn and Jake. Finn is good-natured, heroic, and he loves adventuring. He matures, and he always tries to help the others. Jake, the same. He likes to hang out with his brother Finn. Yes, they're brothers, because they're adopted brothers. He somehow gets magical powers from rolling through mud. And Jake. It took me a while uh, to to like him, mostly because he was a dick. Sometimes he was a dick with calm demeanors and kind of had this no shit attitude. But then he warmed up to me, uh, especially because his relationship with his girlfriend, Lady Rainicorn, was honestly kind of sweet in a way. But yeah, the series, I'm gonna try to wrap up a little bit more. I think that reminiscing about Adventure Time is gonna be kind of like a while, but the series keep going and going, and also some of the and it eventually is kind of led to, well, finally Jake and Lady Rainicorn having children. Uh, Flame Princess, she finally dethroned the tyrant of his father. Even though she forgave Finn, she was not ready to have a romantic relationship, which for me was kind of like a bummer. And as the series progressed, Princess Bubblegum, I kind of began to notice that she was turning also a little bit of a tyrant, a well-meaning tyrant. In a way, she watched the Candy Kingdom. She watched almost every move. She's not very diplomatic with people with the beliefs of magic, because somehow she's Princess Bubblegum was very skeptic. She was so skeptic that she doesn't believe in a magic, in a world full of magic. But the more she was kind of very skeptical. I think she was more closer to this shitty cameo of Bill Murray in Ghostbusters. And yeah, many people were beginning to notice it, that to the point that I was thinking that, you know what would have been a genius idea? To make Princess Bubblegum the villain. Unfortunately, it didn't go that way. Except in one instance.